Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today in celebrating Human Rights Day. My name is Sandy and I'm the President of the United Nations Association of Western Australia. At the UNAAWA, we aim to inform, inspire and engage Western Australians about the work, goals and values of the UN to create a safer, fairer and more sustainable world. Because if 2020 has taught us anything, it is that we are in dire need of a better and more sustainable world that leaves no one behind. That is why this year's Human Rights Day focuses on the need to build back better from the COVID-19 pandemic by ensuring human rights are central to recovery efforts. A better world after the pandemic will only be possible if we are able to create equal opportunities for all and overcome the countless injustices and inequalities made evident by the COVID-19. As the world went into lockdown back in March, the refrain that went around the world was, "We are all in this together." But the pandemic has made evident that even though the virus does not discriminate, its effects on the world does. People who face racism, sexism, and inequality have been more likely to get sick, and those whose human rights are denied are much more likely to bear the brunt of the economic and social costs of this crisis. And this is unacceptable. Respect for human rights should therefore be at the heart of our efforts to build back better, which is why I invite you all to join us with our amazing lineup of speakers in standing up for global solidarity and our shared humanity. I'm so proud to present them to all of you, and I hope they inspire you as much as they did me. Happy Human Rights Day.
This year, 2020, has raised unprecedented challenges for the human rights of all Australians. Protecting the lives and health of the entire community has required extraordinary measures being introduced across all levels of government. This has come with severe consequences for people's ability to move freely in the community, to travel across state borders, to be with family and friends, and to undertake their means of business. Everyone has been and continues to be affected. Human rights, as set out in the Universal Declaration, begin with the essential proposition that all people are born free and equal in dignity and rights. This is a vision that transcends politics and reaches across all societies and all nations. And it is in that spirit that, at the Australian Human Rights Commission, we choose to mark Human Rights Day by celebrating Australia's human rights heroes and showcasing some of the incredible work being carried out by individuals, organisations and businesses across Australia in the pursuit and protection of human rights, freedom and equality. National human rights institutions, independent monitors and watchdogs on human rights at the national level, have a critical role to play in pursuit of the important, tireless principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. At the Australian Human Rights Commission, we take this role seriously. And together with human rights heroes and other human rights defenders, we continue to advocate for human rights to be the reality for everyone, everywhere, every day. Let's embrace the possibilities of making our promises to the world part of our own Australian laws. Above all, we thank the human rights heroes who are working to bring the vision of the Universal Declaration to life.
Hi, my name is Grace Forrest and I'm the co-founder of Walk Free, an international human rights group focused on the eradication of modern slavery in all its forms in our lifetime. This year, on Human Rights Day, it is critical to remember the most fundamental human right, our freedom. In October this year, Walk Free's Stacked Odds report found that 1 in every 130 women in the world is living in conditions of modern slavery. Centuries on from the abolition of slavery, Sexism, racism, and inequality are still roadblocks to sustainable development for tens of millions of people around the world. Today, slavery looks very different to how it existed in the past. However, what is consistent is a human being treated and traded as a commodity. Currently, we are facing some of the highest levels of inequality, poverty, and gender-based violence in recent memory. However, the size and complexity of this problem shouldn't stop us from running at it head-on. It is not impossible to end modern slavery in our lifetime, but it will be impossible to progress as a society and build back stronger from this pandemic with so many people systematically held back. Amplifying survivor voices is foundational to the fight against modern slavery and is necessary to break down systemic inequality. It is not enough to just share survivor stories. Their voices must be present and amplified in rooms where decisions are being made. On this Human Rights Day, we must all do what we can to educate ourselves on the prevalence of modern slavery and risk of exploitation around us, in the clothes we wear, food we eat, and the technology we speak on today. By arming ourselves with a better understanding of modern slavery, we can inform our purchases, our votes, and our voice. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rabia, Siddique, international humanitarian lawyer and author of Equal Justice. Today is the 10th of December, World Human Rights Day. It's the day that in 1948, shortly after World War II, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Declaration is a milestone landmark document that proclaims and enshrines the inalienable rights which every single person on this planet is entitled to enjoy, regardless of race, colour, religion, sex, language, political or other opinion, social origin, property, birth, or other status. And the document and the declaration is available in over 500 languages. This year's Human Rights Day theme, Recover Better, Stand Up for Human Rights, relates to the COVID-19 pandemic that has rocked our world and focuses on the need to build back better by ensuring human rights are central to the recovery efforts. We have seen across our planet over recent months, as our world has been turned upside down, the disproportionate impact that the pandemic has had on certain populations and sectors of our community. We need to make sure that we pay attention to that. And you and I, as people with a voice, with influence, with the ability to create ripples of change, must see this as a time in our world that we are being called upon to reaffirm the importance of human rights in rebuilding the world that we want. The need for global solidarity is now more than ever, as well as our interconnectedness as a shared humanity. So on this Human Rights Day, I call upon you to use your voice, to use your influence, to do what you can to rebuild our world better, your community, your society, and the world around you. We all have the capacity to create ripples of change. And what we know about ripples is that they grow into waves. Happy Human Rights Day.
Today we mark Human Rights Day, the day the United Nations formally adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This milestone document stated that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and that everyone, no matter your race, color, sex, language, religion, political opinion, national or social origin, can impede these rights. The Declaration's principles remain as relevant today as they were just over 70 years ago. The theme of this year's Human Rights Day is Recover Better, and relates to the COVID-19 pandemic and the need for human rights to be at the core of our global recovery efforts. The United States, like Australia, remains committed to addressing inequalities as we emerge from this pandemic. Despite the global turmoil of this pandemic, we should take hope from today. The vision set out by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights continues to inspire and unite people across this region and the world. I have been continually amazed by the passion shown by so many young people here in Western Australia who champion human rights through local organizations, NGOs, and not-for-profits. Here at the United States Consulate General in Perth, we are proud to celebrate in November WA Pride Month by highlighting the work several U.S. companies in WA are doing to advance diversity and inclusion. Martin Luther King Jr. said, quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." So as we reflect on how far we have come to uphold these universal rights, we must recommit ourselves to safeguard human rights wherever they are under threat. Thank you.
My name is Shaheen, and I would like to wish everyone a very special Human Rights Day in 2020, a year that has really been like no other. At the Museum of Freedom and Tolerance, we've spent much of this year on a journey through our fundamental rights and responsibilities through a campaign called HRXHR, and we've really learnt how COVID has impacted each and every human right, for better or for worse. We've seen how the pandemic has exacerbated discrimination in our most vulnerable communities, impacted our ability to afford basic rights like food and shelter, affected our freedom to move, our right to play, and driven governments worldwide to think more about how they need to design health, social welfare systems to provide safety for everyone. We've had to juggle human rights according to the most urgent priorities, sacrificing privileges and concepts we hold dear in order to uphold that most basic right of all, the right to life. And we've worked around the world to embrace a concept quite fundamental to the Human Rights Declaration itself, that of responsibility to our fellow humans during this quite unique moment in modern history. If I have rights, I have to ensure that you have rights too. I think the world could move forward in two ways beyond 2020. We could be driven by fear and disunity, or we could be driven by hope and unity. Using the architecture of human rights as our framework, I truly believe we can move forward with hope to create new systems, a new normal that is better and more sustainable than ever. It's time to work together to end racism, discrimination, and equality. And no one person can do this, or one organisation can do this alone. At the Museum of Freedom and Tolerance, we look forward to working locally and globally so we can stand up for our human rights together. We're going into 2021 with 6 new human-centred values: freedom, equality and dignity, hope, joy and belonging. We have so much to hope for in 2021. Have a safe and special Human Rights Day, everyone.